What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. I hope everyone's doing well. It's funny. I am in the middle of, I wake up this morning and I'm in the middle of wanting to just take care of some house chores, right? Clean up, vacuum, just do all the normal stuff to keep my space tidy. And in the middle of it, I'm like just overcome with this inspiration to do a quick talk. So here I am. This is paradigm shifting. Many of you have been here before. For those of you who haven't, this is a channel that I've put together in order to just talk about and communicate ideas related to growth and personal growth, kind of spiritual awareness, conscientious awareness, neurolinguistic programming, and topics that really relate to personal change, right? So we're here to do an impromptu, quick little talk, and welcome. I'm glad that you're here. For those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who are coming back, glad to have you. All right, this is Paradigm Shifting. Cool. So thanks for joining me. So as I mentioned, I was just inspired really quick, and the inspiration just kind of hit me in a flash, right? And it was really cool. But the idea that I wanted to talk about this morning was how amazing and how incredible you are, and how important this idea of communication is. So I don't know. I was just sitting there thinking about how many people deal with the struggles of self-doubt, right, and critical thinking, right, self-critical thinking, and where that comes from, And the reality is as I look at the relationships I have in my life and the people in my life, those individuals each have their own gift, right? They each have, their contribution that they're meant to make to the world, but they also have like this really beautiful expression of life that I see, and not to say that everyone's perfect, because none of us are, but we all have our own way and our own contribution. But for many people, we get caught up in this idea of critical thinking, right? And many of you may be familiar with kind of Eckhart's work that talks about the egoic mind and how it's limiting, and how it has a tendency to be highly repetitive thoughts that are destructive in some way, right? That are self-limiting and kind of depreciating. And I thought about that, and I thought about everything that I've learned in neurolinguistic programming, and then it hit me. It was just like, man, this is amazing. This is an amazing thought. So the thought is this. You've spent all of your life, the majority of your life, learning how to communicate, whether that was kind of learning the phonetics and the alphabet when you were a child, and then kind of learning the proper utilization of the English language as far as how to speak, how to structure sentences, how to put together papers. And you've kind of dedicated all of this work to this means of communication that's on the surface structure. It's the way that you talk. And in neurolinguistic programming, there are these two concepts of deep structure and surface structure. And deep structure is the idea of these internal principles and in these internal beliefs. And then the surface structure is kind of the way that manifests itself as far as behavior and expression and language and your choice of clothing and the way that you carry yourself, right? It all comes out on the surface structure as far as how you present yourself to the world. And in reality, that is a tendency that's a conscious awareness, right? That's a conscious expression of who it is that we are. But all of us also have these subconscious identities and these subconscious aspects of ourselves that don't necessarily rise up to the conscientious awareness of what it is that we say. So what I mean by that is all of us have these experiences, have had these experiences that have made an impression on us to some extent, whether it's a deeply traumatic expression or a highly joyful expression, and it actually imprints it imprints on a part of us, a deep structured part of us that we don't necessarily think of every day, but in the background it's impacting who it is that we are. It impacts the way that it is that we perceive the world and the way that we communicate with the world, right? These are these kind of deep structured principles and beliefs that are subconscious. And so I'm tying that together with this idea of the egoic mind and that incessant, voice in our head that's always commenting or critiquing or judging, or a voice of, again, self-depreciation or self-doubt, right? And I thought to myself for a moment, and here's the rub. I thought to myself for a moment, well, if I've spent a lifetime, right, learning the English language or whatever language it is that I speak, right? And practicing and honing that. And that is how I got to the point where I speak and I perceive and I express myself the way that I do. Subconsciously, did I do the same thing with that inner dialogue, that inner voice, that egoic voice inside of my head that's always critiquing the world around me? And the answer is yeah. I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. So let me see if I can tie this together, because this is it's kind of getting complex. You are an amazing creature, right? The fact that you're alive and that you're breathing and that you have choice and that you have kind of the capacity to understand and grow and be and have an impact on the world around you, right, is this amazing gift. Like, this gift of life, it's amazing. We experience the highs, the lows, and that's all kind of, it's inherent. It's a divine gift that's given to us when we come into this world. And I say that in the sense of, we intentionally create who it is that we are by the choices that we make, by the things that drive us, the principles and the beliefs that we have, and the lessons that we've learned, and the environments that we grew up that drive us to be who it is that we are. And we focus on that. And some of us achieve those goals, they're these external worldly goals, and some of us are more focused on these internal spiritual goals or these personal development goals. But consciously, on the surface structure, as far as the outward expression, we become conscious of that. Those same experiences, to a certain extent, also have a deep impact on who it is that we are on this deep inner perspective, this deep inner plane, right, of how we define ourselves. And most of us go through life without ever doing any work related to what's the language or what's the experience or what's the expression related to those deep structure inner beliefs, right, that are contributing to this internal dialogue that's happening in my head, right, this inner voice that's constantly talking to me and constantly judging the environment in which I find myself, the relationships in which I'm involved, right, the circumstances of my experience and of my life. And have I done the work, right, on the inside to make sure that that internal language is as, or in alignment, or kind of as well-rounded as the work that I've done in the external expression, right, the conscious expression of my language? And this thought blew me away. Like, if you really think about this, if you really take a moment to think about this idea is it can be a life-altering idea. There are people who are extremely successful in life, physically speaking, right? Externally speaking, right? They have it all. They have, companies. They work well with others. They build great teams. They, are successful financially and have, material wealth. They do well in their relationships. Not to say that everybody has all of these things, right? But some people excel in some areas more than others. But there is probably a commonality amongst these people that we perceive as successful externally in relation to the decisions that they make, the expression that they bring, the example by which they lead, right? The principles that guide them. And for the most part, none of those people are overly consumed with a negative internal dialogue, right? They don't focus on the problems. They look for the solutions. They don't focus on spending their time kind of, consumed by the drama of life, whether it's, reality television or whether they're, tied to social media. They're more along the lines of figuring out how it is that they can grow, how it is that they can help other people grow as well, right? In this act of service. And then they find themselves in the flow. Those people have somehow, and I don't know if it's been documented possibly, but have somehow found a way to mitigate the negativity, the negativity associated with that subconscious inner dialogue. And I think that in the same way where we've practiced and honed the skills related to our normal communication, our command of the language, our kind of expression of how we perceive the world. I believe in the same way that we can work and structure and mold that expression, that we can also take a look at the deep structure, subconscious influencers that determine our own internal egoic dialogue. Um, Ho'oponopono, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, but Ho'oponopono is this practice of being able to cleanse yourself through your thought, right? Because thoughts have frequency, and that frequency, if we look at the process of what happens when we have a thought, right? There's a physiological response that fires off, neuropeptides that are released from a certain part of your brain, and those neuropeptides basically send a chemical cascading reaction of emotional association with that emotion. And then what happens is that emotion, kind of, you feel it, you're validating it with what you're seeing in the world, you're thinking this thought, and this becomes a loop, right? And it can be a negative loop or a positive loop. You can be a person who fires off, thoughts related to kindness and love and joy, and then you actually present yourself emotionally, mentally, right, intentionally, with this idea of love, compassion, and joy. Or it can be the alternative. You can be completely consumed by negativity. You can think about the scarcity in your life and figure, hey man, I've got to do something in order to make it, and then you go out and you create, do something negative in order to kind of feel or be an expression of sustaining yourself against all odds of the world. But this process happens internally, right? This process happens subconsciously. We're not aware of the fact that our brain is firing off, a synaptic synapses or synaptic right connections. We're not aware that those processes are actually happening in our mind, right? And then the subsequent, physiological response that happens because of it. It happens subconsciously. It's not something that we think about. So can we condition ourselves? Right? Can we condition ourselves to fire off, right, intentional thought around what it is that we want to create and how it is that we want to be? You see, I believe that the answer to that question is yes. I honestly believe the answer to that question is yes. And I even more so believe that there is a very simple way of programming yourself at a deep structure, right, of kind of realigning what it is that you believe based on the experiences that you've had, so that if something is incongruent, if something is not serving your best interest, you can stop that process and reprogram your mind essentially to fire off these synaptic expressions to be more in alignment with the positive aspects of how you want your life to unfold. And in doing so, you can reprogram and retrain the internal dialogue that you have with yourself. And this idea in and of itself is fascinating to me, because I grew up in an environment where, my family was the people around me were very, very pessimistic, right? It was always a glass half empty type of world that other people were trying to show me, and I didn't necessarily align to that, right? I don't see the world in that way. I see the world more in the idea of, we have to be the expression of goodness. We have to be the positivity that we want to see in the world, because I truly believe that it comes down to us, right? We're the, and as cliche as it is, right, we're the captain of our own ship, and our perspective is determined by us based on what it is that we believe inside. So if you can slowly or quickly, right, realign those internal deep structured beliefs, I know that you can retrain your internal dialogue to be a supportive dialogue as opposed to a non-supportive dialogue. I remember when I was working out, and I haven't worked out in a while. It's been a while since I worked out. But I remember when I was working out, at first, when I first started, oh, it was painful. And my mind would be like, oh, you can't do this. You're incapable, right? You're tired. You're weak. This is way too heavy for you. Oh, that run is just way too long. And then after a while, I began to condition my body, and I became somewhat more comfortable with this experience of kind of growth and change and what was happening in my body as I was putting it through this strenuous workout. My internal dialogue started to change, and it was really me repeating these, a few different phrases, right? And it was, I am strong, I am hard, I am fast, I'm healthy. strong, I'm hard, I'm fast, I'm healthy. And I kept saying that to myself over and over and over again. And what I did is I slowly drowned out that pessimistic, incapable aspect of my internal self and replaced it with this strong belief and principle related to my capability and my ability to really change and to be strong and to be faster and to be the best expression of myself. And I think that, this lesson, right, is a really important lesson for anyone who's having problems with not being able to break out of that negative thought pattern, not being able to break out of, that, consistent view related to what's lacking or what I'm incapable of doing. Because the reality is that, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, anything that you put your mind to, you can accomplish as long as you work hard and align yourself and use your resources and find, a good network of people to support you in getting to that end goal. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about is the idea and thought about reprogramming your subconscious, right? That internal dialogue, reprogramming it so that it benefits you, so that it aligns to you, so that it supports you in living and being the expression that you want to be. If you have any questions around how to do this, right? If you're interested in like digging deeper, reach out. Let me know. If you want to learn more about like real processes that have an immediate impact related to what it is that you believe and what it is that you perceive. We at the Neurolinguistic Programming Center of Atlanta can help you kind of understand how to go about doing that. So hit me up on Facebook. If you have my direct contact information, send me a text, give me a call, whatever it is. I'll be more than happy to give you some info on how that's done. All right, that was the inspirational talk. I thought it was important. I hope everyone's doing well. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll catch up really soon. You guys take care.